The Roloff family has faced many storms, but never like this. What started as whispers of betrayal soon turned into a legal war that shattered love, trust, and family forever. Matt Roloff accuses Chris Merrick of secretly plotting to steal Roloff Farms through Amy. Karen Chandler steps in with shocking evidence. But was it the truth or a twisted plan of her own? What happened inside that courtroom would change everything the Roloffs and their fans thought they knew. Amy Roloff shouted in court, "It's all lies." To her, Matt was once again trying to control her life. Two couples faced off in a courtroom, Amy and Chris versus Matt and Karen. The trial revealed forged signatures, fake papers, tears, and accusations of betrayal. And when the shocking truth finally came out, the entire world was stunned. Because the person Matt trusted most, the one who claimed to protect him, Karen, was the mastermind of the scheme. This is the story of broken marriages, forged papers, courtroom chaos, and a betrayal so deep that even family could not survive it. All four relationships are shattered beyond repair. Let's start at the beginning, because to understand the story, you need to know the world it's set in. Matt Roloff sat at the head of his farmhouse table late one evening, papers spread before him. His hands trembled, not from age, but from anger. On the documents, his sharp eyes caught something odd. Chris Merrick's name, faint but present, on financial papers connected to the farm. Why would Chris' signature be here? Matt muttered under his breath. To him, this was no accident. This was a sign of invasion, someone stepping into his legacy. Karen Chandler, ever observant, leaned over. "Matt, I told you this would happen. Chris isn't just here for Amy, he's eyeing the farm." Her words poured gasoline on Matt's growing fire. Roloff Farms was his blood, sweat, and legacy. The idea that Chris, his ex-wife's new husband, might be making moves behind his back was unbearable. Meanwhile, Amy Roloff enjoyed a peaceful dinner with Chris at their cozy home. She laughed at his jokes, unaware that storm clouds were forming. Chris, however, seemed preoccupied. He had been helping Amy with some paperwork, and though he hadn't meant to cross any lines, his name now sat on documents connected to the farm. Unknowingly, he had walked into the center of a war. The morning sun lit up Roloff Farms, but inside the big red barn, the atmosphere was heavy. Matt Roloff had called Amy and Chris to meet him there. He stood with his arms crossed, papers clutched tightly in his hand. Karen stood slightly behind him, her expression sharp, ready for battle. When Amy and Chris arrived, Amy immediately sensed something was wrong. "Matt, what's this about? You look furious." Matt didn't waste a second. He slapped the papers down on the wooden table. "Explain this, Chris. Why is your signature on my farm's financial documents?" Chris looked genuinely confused. He picked up the papers, his brow furrowing. I don't know what you mean. I only helped Amy look over some things. If my name ended up on anything, it wasn't intentional." Amy stepped forward, defensive. "Matt, don't start this again. You've always had a way of twisting things. Chris is my husband now. He has nothing to do with your farm." Karen suddenly cut in, her voice cold. "Nothing to do with the farm. Amy, open your eyes. He's signing papers. He's getting his foot in the door. First the signature, then the property. Before you know it, Roloff Farms will belong to Chris Merrick." Amy's face flushed red, her anger rising. "Karen, stop trying to poison Matt against us. You've hated me since the day you came into this picture. This is just another one of your schemes." The barn echoed with a clash of voices. Chris tried to steady his tone. "Look, Matt, I respect you and your farm. I'd never try to steal it from you. I signed nothing that wasn't routine paperwork Amy asked me to help with. This has to be a mistake." But Matt's mind was already set. His jaw tightened. "I don't believe in mistakes when it comes to my land. If your name is on those papers, Chris, it means you've crossed the line." For a moment, silence filled the barn. Everyone could hear the distant sound of tractors in the fields, as if the farm itself was listening. Amy finally snapped, her voice trembling but loud. "You've controlled me long enough, Matt. First my marriage, then my choices, and now this. You're trying to paint Chris as the villain just because you can't let go." Matt's eyes darkened. "And maybe you're letting him use you, Amy. Maybe Chris doesn't love you for you. Maybe he just wants the farm." Amy gasped, her heart breaking at the accusation. Chris reached for her hand, but the damage was already done. The first battle had been fought, but neither side realized this was only the beginning. The farm dispute would not end in the barn. It was heading for the courtroom. After the explosive confrontation in the barn, the Roloffs retreated to their corners like rival fighters after the first round of a match. The air was thick with suspicion, resentment, and wounded pride. That evening, Matt sat with Karen in his farmhouse kitchen. The papers lay between them again, almost like evidence on a detective's desk. Matt rubbed his forehead. "I've worked my whole life for this farm. I can't let Chris Merrick, of all people, sneak his way into ownership." Karen leaned closer, her voice steady, persuasive. "Matt, you're right. And don't you see? Amy's blinded by her feelings for him. If we don't act, Chris could gain legal footing. One wrong move, and you'll be pushed out of your own legacy." Matt slammed his fist on the table. "Over my dead body." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Then we need to get serious. If Chris's name is on those papers, it's legal proof. You take him to court before he takes you." For Matt, the idea of court felt extreme, but the seed had been planted. Meanwhile, across town, Amy sat curled up on the couch, her hands shaking with anger. Chris tried to comfort her, but she pulled away. "Matt will never stop Chris. He's trying to destroy us. First, it was Karen in my life. Now it's this. He wants me alone, broken, under his control." Chris put a hand on her shoulder. "Amy, listen to me. I don't care about Roloff Farms. I care about you. That's all. But if Matt wants a fight, maybe we should be ready to defend ourselves." Amy's eyes filled with tears. "But in court, Chris? Do you know what that means? Our entire lives, our marriage dragged out for the world to see." Chris hesitated. He hated conflict, but deep down he knew Matt wouldn't back down. The drama couldn't stay private. Word began to spread among family, friends, and soon, through whispers to the media, Roloff Farms wasn't just a piece of land. It was a symbol, almost sacred to fans of Little People, Big World. Local reporters began asking questions. Is there a legal dispute over the farm? Did Chris Merrick really sign papers tied to Roloff Farms? The more the rumors spread, the more Matt dug in his heels. Karen urged him to protect his empire. Amy, furious, accused Karen of stirring everything up. For Chris, this was becoming a nightmare. He had never wanted to be in the middle of this family's battles. Yet, somehow, his name was now at the center of it. One final heated argument at a family gathering sealed their fates. Matt, his voice sharp. "You think you can just stroll in, marry Amy, and lay claim to the farm? I'll see you in court before I let that happen." Chris finally snapping. "Fine. If you want to drag me into court, do it. But you'll regret it when the truth comes out." Amy shouted through her tears. "You've always tried to ruin my happiness, Matt. You won't succeed this time." Karen folded her arms, a faint smirk on her lips. "This is exactly what needs to happen. Let the judge decide who's telling the truth." The room went silent. Everyone knew the line had been crossed. The battle for Roloff Farms was no longer a private feud. It was heading for the courtroom, and once there, nothing would ever be the same. The quiet Oregon countryside had seen its fair share of family drama on Roloff Farms. But this time, the tension spilled beyond the barn in the fields. It was no longer just whispers, accusations, or angry dinners. It was now legal. One cold morning, Matt Roloff met with his attorney in a downtown Portland office. The walls were lined with law books, and the heavy silence was only broken by the ticking of a clock. "Mr. Roloff," the lawyer said, sliding his glasses down the bridge of his nose, You're saying you have evidence that Chris Merrick improperly signed financial documents connected to the farm. Matt placed the papers on the desk with trembling hands. Not improperly, intentionally. He's trying to carve himself into something that doesn't belong to him. The lawyer studied the documents, then leaned back in his chair. This could be enough to open a case. If you want to proceed, we'll file a claim of property interference. Matt didn't hesitate. File it. Karen, seated beside him, squeezed his arm. You're doing the right thing, protecting what's yours. 2 days later, Amy was at her kitchen table when she received the thick envelope. Inside was a legal notice, Matt Roloff versus Chris Merrick. Her hands shook as she read the words out loud. He's suing you, Chris, over the farm. Chris looked stunned. Suing me? I've done nothing wrong. This is insane. Amy slammed the papers down. This is Karen's doing. I know it. She's feeding him lies just to tear us apart. Tears welled in her eyes. Matt won't stop until I have nothing left. Chris wrapped his arms around her. Then we fight back. If he wants court, we'll meet him there. Within a week, both couples had legal teams lined up. Depositions were scheduled. Witnesses were listed. Evidence was gathered. Matt's side prepared to argue that Chris's signature on farm-related papers proved interference. Karen insisted she had proof of Chris' intentions, and she was eager to testify. Amy and Chris's side focused on disproving everything. They argued that if Chris's name appeared anywhere, it was either routine assistance or a forgery. Chris claimed he never signed anything binding. Amy made it clear to her lawyer, this isn't just about land. This is about my dignity. Matt has tried to control me my whole life. I won't let him destroy my marriage too. News of the court filings leaked fast. Headlines blared. Roloff farm battle. Matt versus Chris. Love and land at war. Amy and Matt back in court. But this time it's not divorce. Karen Chandler to testify against Amy's husband. The once beloved Roloff family, known for their reality TV warmth, was now the subject of national scandal. Fans argued online, some supporting Matt, others defending Amy. But deep inside, both couples knew this wasn't about fans. This wasn't about television. This was personal. At the pre-trial hearing, the judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. Case number 27-45. Roloff versus Merrick. Trial will commence in 4 weeks. Amy whispered to Chris, 4 weeks to prove the truth. Matt whispered to Karen, 4 weeks to take him down. 4 weeks to decide the fate of Roloff Farms, and perhaps the fate of 2 marriages. The countdown to courtroom chaos had officially begun. The days leading up to the trial were anything but peaceful. Both couples treated the upcoming case like a battlefield. Every detail mattered. Every word could tip the balance. Inside Matt's office, the table was stacked with binders, farm records, and financial statements. Karen hovered close, pointing to highlighted sections. Look here, she said firmly, tapping her finger on a page. Chris's name shows up not just once, but twice. That can't be an accident. Matt's lawyer nodded. We'll argue that these signatures show intent to interfere with farm ownership. With Karen as a witness, we'll establish a pattern. Matt leaned back, his voice gravelly. This farm is my legacy. I'll fight until my last breath to keep it. Karen placed a hand on his shoulder. And I'll be by your side. Always. But privately, Karen's eyes gleamed with something more. This wasn't just about supporting Matt. For her, this was about cementing her place in the Roloff story forever. At Amy's kitchen table, the mood was entirely different. Chris sat with his head in his hands, while Amy tried to stay strong. Their lawyer spread out the documents Matt's team planned to use. These signatures, the lawyer said, are weak evidence. If Chris claims forgery, we'll request a handwriting analysis. We'll also bring in experts to testify that these documents were mishandled. Chris sighed. I never wanted this. I just wanted to love Amy and stay out of all this farm drama. Amy's voice trembled, but she steadied it. Matt has been trying to control me for decades. Now he's using Karen to drive a wedge between us. We're not just defending the farm, we're defending our marriage. She grabbed Chris' hand. We fight together. No matter what. Both sides began compiling names of people who would testify. Matt and Karen's side. Former farm employees, financial advisors, and even one old Roloff friend who claimed he overheard Chris talking about the land. Amy and Chris's side. Handwriting experts, close family friends, and Amy herself, ready to testify about Matt's history of manipulation. The stage was being set for a dramatic showdown where every voice could tip the scales. The wider Roloff family couldn't stay out of the storm. Zach, Tori, and other relatives whispered about the situation. Some believed Matt was too obsessed with the farm. Others thought Chris should have stayed out of business matters. For the first time, the Roloff name wasn't united by love. It was fractured by suspicion. As the trial drew closer, camera crews and reporters began circling the courthouse. News anchors teased the case as the reality TV family feud turned legal drama. Fans flooded social media with theories. Karen forged the documents herself. Chris is secretly after the farm. Amy's too emotional to see the truth. The court case had become more than a legal battle. It was a public spectacle. The night before the trial, both couples sat in silence, separately, in different houses, but with the same heavy feeling. Matt stared out at the fields of Roloff farms, whispering, "I won't let him take this from me." Amy lay awake, tears on her pillow, whispering, "I won't let Matt ruin Chris like he ruined me." Karen rehearsed her testimony in the mirror, determined to sound convincing. Chris sat alone on the porch, wondering how his life had spiraled into this nightmare. The farm, once a place of family gatherings and laughter, was now the root of bitterness. And tomorrow, it would all spill into court. The courthouse in Portland was buzzing with reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. The case had captured headlines across the country. Little people, big world. Farm feud goes to court. Inside, the tension was unbearable. The once united Roloff family was now split into two camps. Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler sitting firmly on one side of the aisle. Amy Roloff and Chris Merrick seated together on the other. The air felt electric, heavy with years of resentment and unspoken words. The judge, an older man with stern eyes, looked over the packed courtroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin with opening statements." Matt's lawyer rose first, buttoning his suit. "Your Honor, this case is about deception. Chris Merrick inserted himself into financial dealings of Roloff Farms without proper authority. We will show signed documents linking him directly to attempts at interference with ownership, and we will show that this was no mistake. It was deliberate." Matt's jaw was tight. Karen squeezed his hand under the table. Next, Chris and Amy's lawyer stood. "This is not a case about interference. This is a case about obsession. Matt Roloff cannot let go of control, not over the farm, and not over Amy. My client, Chris Merrick, signed nothing of legal consequence. Any evidence brought forward is either misinterpreted or manipulated. We will prove that Matt and Karen are using this lawsuit as a weapon, not a shield." Amy nodded firmly, though her eyes glistened with emotion. The judge nodded. "Plaintiff may call the first witness." Matt's lawyer rose again. "We call Karen Chandler to the stand." Gasps rippled through the audience. Karen adjusted her blazer and walked confidently to the witness box. She raised her right hand and swore to tell the truth. Lawyer: "Ms. Chandler, can you tell us what you discovered regarding Chris Merrick and Roloff Farms?" Karen leaned forward, her voice steady. "Yes, I personally saw documents with Chris' name and signature on them. I believe he was attempting to establish a legal tie to the farm. Amy may not have seen it, but I did." Matt's lawyer nodded in satisfaction. "And why is that significant?" "Because Roloff Farms is Matt's legacy. Chris had no right to be on those papers. It shows he was trying to claim something that isn't his." Matt's face was stoic, but inside, he felt vindicated. Amy's lawyer rose swiftly. Miss Chandler, let me ask you, did you see Chris actually sign these papers with your own eyes? Karen hesitated. Well, not directly, but I know his signature. The lawyer pressed. So you're assuming? You didn't personally watch him sign. Karen's lips tightened. No, but it's clear. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. Clear to you, but not backed by any direct proof. Amy glared from the defense table. Karen avoided her eyes. Whispers erupted across the audience benches. Reporters scribbled notes furiously. Amy leaned toward Chris. She's lying. I knew it. Chris whispered back, stay calm. The truth will come out. But Matt, watching from his side, looked uneasy. Karen's hesitation had weakened their opening punch. The judge banged his gavel. Order in the court. We will recess until tomorrow morning. As everyone stood, the atmosphere felt even heavier. The first shot had been fired, but the war was far from over. The second day of trial dawned gray and rainy, as if the weather itself mirrored the storm brewing inside the courthouse. Reporters crowded the steps, microphones flashing, waiting to catch a glimpse of the Roloffs as they entered. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. The air smelled faintly of polished wood and paper, but all anyone could sense was tension. The judge announced, defense may call its witness. Amy's lawyer stood. We call Chris Merrick to the stand. Chris walked slowly toward the witness box. His steps were steady, but his face betrayed the weight he carried. He raised his hand, swore his oath, and sat down. Defense lawyer. Mr. Merrick, can you explain your involvement with any documents related to Roloff Farms? Chris nodded, his voice calm but firm. Yes, I did look over some papers Amy had, papers that were related to her finances and past agreements. I sometimes help her with paperwork, but I never intended to tie myself to Roloff Farms, nor do I want to. That farm belongs to Matt, and always has. I respect that. Amy smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. Matt's lawyer rose, his tone sharp. Mr. Merrick, are you saying your signature just magically appeared on financial documents? Chris took a breath. I don't know how it happened. Maybe I initialed something Amy gave me to review without realizing the context. But I never signed anything binding, and I certainly never tried to interfere with ownership. The lawyer pressed harder. Mr. Merrick, are you aware that forging or altering financial documents is a felony? Chris stiffened. Of course. And I would never do that. The lawyer smirked. Yet here we are, with your name on papers connected to a multi-million-dollar property. So either you're lying or someone else forged it. Which is it? The courtroom fell silent. Chris's jaw tightened. He looked directly at the lawyer. If you want my answer, it wasn't me. If my name is there, then it was put there by someone else. And maybe you should be asking who stood to benefit from that. His eyes flicked briefly toward Karen. The audience gasped. Amy couldn't hold it in any longer. She stood, her voice trembling with fury. This is exactly what I've been saying. Matt, you've always tried to control me, and now you're letting Karen drag you into a lie just to destroy my marriage. The judge banged his gavel. Mrs. Merrick, sit down. You will not shout in this courtroom. But Amy's words had already pierced through the silence. Reporters scribbled furiously, sensing the story growing more explosive by the second. On the plaintiff's side, Karen shifted uncomfortably. For the first time, her confidence wavered. Matt glanced at her, his brow furrowed, as if questioning what else she hadn't told him. The seed of doubt had been planted, right there in open court. The judge finally announced, "We will resume tomorrow with further witness testimony." As everyone stood, the room buzzed with whispers. Did Chris just accuse Karen? Amy finally snapped. Is Matt starting to doubt her? The trial was turning into a wildfire, and no one knew who would be burned next. The third day of trial began with the same storm of cameras and reporters outside the courthouse. But inside, the tension had shifted. Chris's bold hint that someone else might have manipulated the documents left the courtroom buzzing. The judge called for order. Defense may proceed with its next witness. Amy's lawyer stood proudly. Your Honor, the defense calls Dr. Stephen Caldwell, a handwriting analysis expert with over 20 years of forensic experience. A tall man with gray hair and glasses entered the witness box, carrying several enlarged copies of the disputed documents. He swore his oath and sat. Defense lawyer, Dr. Caldwell, you have reviewed the documents presented by the plaintiff. What were your findings? The expert adjusted his glasses. Yes, I carefully examined the signatures attributed to Mr. Chris Merrick on the farm financial documents. In my professional opinion, those signatures show signs of being traced or copied. The pen pressure is inconsistent, and the flow is unnatural, clear indicators that they were not signed in a natural hand. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Amy squeezed Chris' hand. Defense lawyer. So you're saying those signatures are not authentic? Dr. Caldwell nodded firmly. Correct. They do not match Mr. Merrick's verified handwriting samples. Matt's lawyer rose quickly, his voice sharp. Dr. Caldwell, isn't it true that handwriting analysis isn't a perfect science? The expert replied calmly. While no method is flawless, my analysis is supported by decades of experience. These signatures are highly suspicious and unlikely to be genuine. The lawyer tried again. Couldn't Mr. Merrick have signed in a hurry, making them appear inconsistent? Dr. Caldwell shook his head. Not to this degree. The evidence points strongly to manipulation. At the plaintiff's table, Matt's face paled. His hand gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. For the first time, he felt doubt gnaw at him. If the signatures weren't Chris's, then whose were they? Karen sat beside him, shifting uncomfortably. Her eyes darted away from his. Whispers filled the courtroom. The defense lawyer stood again, turning toward the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, if Chris Merrick didn't sign these documents, then someone else placed his name there. Someone with motive. And we will show that the person who benefited most from this scheme was not Chris, but Karen Chandler. The words hung in the air like thunder. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed as if the trial had turned into a movie. Amy glanced across the room at Karen, her eyes blazing with fury. Chris leaned forward, whispering to his lawyer, "This is it. The truth is coming out." The judge banged the gavel. Order! Order! This trial will proceed in an orderly fashion. But the energy in the room had already shifted. Karen's testimony was crumbling. The handwriting expert had turned the tide. And for the first time, the courtroom began to wonder if the wrong man was on trial. Before adjourning, the judge looked directly at both sides. This case is beginning to reveal troubling inconsistencies. Tomorrow, we will continue with further testimony. But let it be clear, any evidence of manipulation or forgery will carry serious consequences. The gavel struck. The court adjourned for the day. As everyone rose, Matt turned toward Karen, his face tense. Karen, what's going on? But Karen said nothing, only avoided his eyes. The fourth day of trial brought a different energy. The public gallery was packed tighter than ever, reporters nearly climbing over each other to get front row seats. The drama had already gone viral across TV and social media. Now everyone wanted to see the next bombshell. The defense attorney rose with a quiet confidence. Your Honor, the defense calls Mr. Daniel Harris to the stand. Gasps swept the courtroom. Daniel Harris had once been a farmhand at Roloff Farms, someone who had worked under Matt for years. His unexpected appearance drew every eye. Daniel walked forward, his work boots heavy against the wooden floor. He raised his hand, swore the oath, and sat down. Defense lawyer. Mr. Harris, can you tell us about your time at Roloff Farms and your connection to this case? Daniel cleared his throat. I worked at the farm for about 6 years. I left recently. But before I did, I overheard some conversations between Karen and another staff member. The lawyer leaned in. And what did you hear? Daniel looked directly at the jury. I've heard Karen talking about making sure Chris' name appeared on farm papers. She said, and I quote, "If Matt sees Chris's signature, He'll never trust Amy again. It'll tear them apart. The courtroom erupted in gasps and whispers. Matt's head snapped toward Karen, his face frozen in disbelief. Karen shot up from her seat. That's a lie. He's making this up. He was fired from the farm. He's bitter. But Daniel remained calm. I wasn't fired. I quit. And I quit because I couldn't watch this game anymore. Karen wanted to frame Chris, and I wasn't going to be part of it. The defense lawyer smiled. No further questions. Matt's lawyer rushed to his feet. Mr. Harris, you claim to have heard this conversation. Did you record it? Do you have any proof? Daniel shook his head. No recording. But I know what I heard. The lawyer smirked. So it's your word against Karen Chandler's? Daniel nodded. Yes, but I know what I heard, and I couldn't stay silent. The courtroom buzzed again. Matt sat motionless, staring at Karen. For years, he had trusted her, leaned on her, even believed her against Amy. But now, his chest tightened with doubt. Karen, he whispered harshly under his breath, tell me this isn't true. Karen avoided his eyes, her lips pressed tightly together. Amy slammed her hand on the defense table, her voice cracking with emotion. Do you see, Matt? Do you finally see? Karen has been playing you this whole time, turning you against me, against Chris, against everyone. The judge banged the gavel furiously. Mrs. Merrick, control yourself. But Amy's words hung in the air, impossible to ignore. The judge leaned forward. This testimony raises serious questions. We will recess until tomorrow to review further evidence. But let me be clear, if forgery or manipulation is confirmed, this case will take a very different direction. The gavel came down with a heavy crack. As the courtroom emptied, chaos followed. Reporters shouted questions. Karen, did you forge the documents? Matt, are you standing by her? Amy, do you feel vindicated? But the most telling moment happened in silence. Matt walked several steps ahead of Karen, his head low, his hands clenched. He didn't wait for her. He didn't look back. And for the first time, Karen realized her control might be slipping. The fifth day of the trial began under an eerie silence. The courthouse, normally buzzing with media chatter, seemed subdued, as if everyone sensed the story was nearing its breaking point. Inside, Matt Roloff sat at the plaintiff's table, staring down at the polished wood, his thoughts heavier than the gavel that would soon strike. For the first time, he felt unsure. Before the session began, Matt leaned close to Karen, his voice low and strained. Karen, I need to know the truth. Did you do this? Did you put Christ's name on those papers? Karen's eyes flashed. Matt, how could you even ask me that? After everything, I've been fighting for you. But her defensive tone only deepened the pit in Matt's stomach. He wanted to believe her. He needed to believe her. But the image of Daniel Harris on the stand, swearing she had orchestrated the entire scheme, refused to leave his mind. The judge entered, his robe flowing, and the bailiff called the room to order. Today, the judge said firmly, we will continue with document examination and rebuttal witnesses. The defense presented more analysis from Dr. Caldwell, the handwriting expert, doubling down on the evidence of manipulation. He compared authentic Chris Merrick's signatures with the disputed ones, pointing out precise inconsistencies. The jury leaned forward, watching intently. Every stroke of the pen was magnified on a large screen. Amy's lawyer rose, his voice steady but piercing. Your Honor, at this time, the defense requests that Karen Chandler be recalled to the stand for further questioning. The judge nodded. Proceed. Karen walked slowly back to the witness box, her confident stride from earlier days replaced by something heavier, hesitation. Defense lawyer, Ms. Chandler, you previously testified that you saw Christ's name on documents. But witnesses and experts suggest the signatures were manipulated. Did you, at any time, alter or arrange for those documents to be altered? Karen stiffened. No, absolutely not. The lawyer pressed. Did you ever tell a farm employee that showing Matt these signatures would tear Amy and Chris apart? Karen shook her head violently. No, that's ridiculous. He's lying. But her voice cracked, betraying her nerves. From the plaintiff's table, Matt watched her closely. He had spent years reading people, business partners, family, even TV producers. And now, looking at Karen, he saw something he hadn't wanted to see before. Fear. Not fear of being accused unfairly. Fear of being caught. His stomach sank. What if Amy had been right all along? During a short recess, Amy stood near the courtroom doors, her eyes locked on Matt. Her voice was trembling but fierce. Matt, you ruined our marriage with your need to control everything. And now you've let Karen manipulate you into destroying what little family we had left. Do you see it now? Do you finally see what she's done? Matt couldn't answer. For the first time in decades, the man who always had words, always had control, was silent. As the day came to a close, the judge delivered a heavy statement. This court is seeing conflicting testimonies and troubling evidence. Tomorrow, we will hear closing arguments, and then this jury will decide the truth. The gavel fell with a resounding crack. Back at the farmhouse, Matt sat alone in his office. The documents lay before him, but he didn't look at them. Instead, he stared out the window at the land he had built, the field stretching endlessly under the moonlight. For years, Roloff Farms had been his pride. But now, it was a battlefield that had destroyed trust, love, and family. And in his heart, one question echoed louder than ever. Had Karen used him? The sixth day of trial arrived with an electricity in the air. The courthouse was so crowded, security had to push reporters back from the doors. Everyone knew today would bring either vindication or devastation. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. On one side, Amy and Chris sat hand in hand, holding on tightly as though bracing for a storm. On the other, Matt sat beside Karen, but his posture had changed. He no longer leaned toward her with trust. Instead, he kept a few inches of distance, his silence speaking volumes. The defense began the day by submitting one final piece of evidence, a copy of an email obtained through legal discovery. Defense lawyer, Your Honor, this email was sent from Karen Chandler to a former Roloff Farms accountant. The subject line reads, Farm papers. Urgent. In the body, she writes, make sure Chris' name appears where necessary. It will raise questions that Matt needs to see. The courtroom gasped. Cameras flashed. Karen shot to her feet. That's taken out of context. I only meant he was helping Amy. That doesn't mean I forged anything. But the words had already landed like a bombshell. For the first time in the trial, Matt stood up, his voice low but filled with fury. Karen, is it true? Did you push for Chris' name to be on those papers? Did you do this to me? Karen stammered, her face pale. Matt, no. I was only trying to protect you. You don't understand. But Matt cut her off. Protect me? By lying to me? By dragging me into a courtroom against Amy? The entire room fell silent. Even the judge allowed the moment to hang heavy in the air. Amy's lawyer rose for cross-examination. Ms. Chandler, after the handwriting expert's testimony and this email, how can you continue to deny involvement? Isn't it true you manipulated these documents to drive a wedge between Amy and Chris, and to tighten your grip on Matt? Karen's face reddened, her lips trembling. No, I only wanted what was best for Matt. Amy was moving on, bringing Chris into everything, and She stopped, realizing she had said too much. Amy stood, her voice fierce and breaking at once. You wanted me miserable. You wanted me alone. You've been trying to erase me from this family since the day you arrived. Karen couldn't answer. Her silence screamed louder than words. The judge slammed his gavel. Enough. Tomorrow, we will hear closing arguments from both sides. Then this jury will deliberate. But make no mistake, this court takes allegations of forgery very seriously. If proven, the consequences will be severe. The gavel echoed like thunder. The day was over. As the courtroom emptied, Matt didn't walk with Karen. He walked alone, his head bowed, his hands stuffed into his jacket pockets. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, but he didn't respond. Amy and Chris left hand in hand, Amy whispering, "It's not over yet, but the truth is finally coming out." And Karen. She walked out behind them, her face pale, her confident smile gone, replaced with the look of a woman whose entire plan was unraveling. The seventh day of trial felt like the finale of a long, bitter play. The courtroom was overflowing with reporters, fans, and curious locals, each person buzzing with anticipation. The Roloffs were no longer just reality stars. They were the center of one of the most talked-about courtroom dramas in recent memory. Matt's lawyer rose first, adjusting his tie and facing the jury. His tone was forceful, but cracks showed in his confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about protecting legacy. Matt Roloff has built Roloff Farms with his bare hands, his sweat, and his vision. He believed Chris Murek was intruding where he had no right, through financial documents. Now, I know you've heard conflicting testimony, but the fact remains. Chris's name is on those papers. That cannot be ignored. Matt acted to defend what was his, and his actions were justified." The lawyer gestured toward Matt. "This is a man fighting for his life's work. We asked you to see through the noise and protect him." Matt sat still, his expression grim. He didn't even glance at Karen. Amy's lawyer stood next, stepping toward the jury with calm confidence. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the evidence. You've seen the documents. You've listened to the experts. And one fact is undeniable. The signatures were manipulated. Chris Merrick did not try to steal Roloff Farms. He did not plot against Matt Roloff. The truth is simpler and darker." The lawyer turned toward Karen. Karen Chandler orchestrated this. She pressured staff, pushed for Chris' name to appear, and then weaponized that paperwork to poison Matt against Amy and Chris. Why? Because she knew it would tear apart relationships, leaving her in control. A wave of murmurs rippled through the room. The lawyer raised their voice. Matt Roloff came here believing he was protecting his farm. But in reality, he was being used by the very person who claimed to stand by his side. The only victims here are Amy and Chris, dragged through the mud because of Karen's scheme. And in the process, Matt himself became a victim too. Amy squeezed Chris's hand, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. Unable to stay silent, Karen suddenly leaped to her feet. Her voice cracked, raw with panic. "They're twisting everything. I never forged anything. I was just trying to help Matt see the truth." Amy was bringing Chris into places he didn't belong. Someone had to stop it before he ruined the farm. Her words tumbled over each other, desperate and uncontrolled. The defense lawyer calmly turned back to the jury. And there it is. Not reason. Not truth. Desperation. This isn't about Chris interfering. This is about Karen interfering with everyone's lives. The judge banged the gavel. "Order. Miss Chandler, sit down." Karen collapsed back into her chair, her face pale, her composure shattered. The judge addressed the jury with measured authority. "You have heard the testimony. You have reviewed the evidence. It is your duty to determine the truth of this matter. Deliberations will begin tomorrow. Court is adjourned." The gavel struck like thunder. The courtroom emptied in hushed murmurs. Matt walked out slowly, his face hollow, as though decades of certainty had been stripped away in a single week. Amy and Chris left hand in hand, not celebrating, but relieved that their truth had finally been spoken aloud. Karen trailed behind, eyes downcast, avoiding cameras, her once confident stride reduced to a broken shuffle. For the first time, the world saw the Roloff family not as a tight-knit TV clan, but as fractured lives, unraveling under the weight of betrayal. And tomorrow, the jury would decide the fate of them all. The eighth day of trial dawned with a gray sky and heady clouds, as though the heavens themselves mirrored the weight of what was to come. Crowds swarmed the courthouse steps, reporters shouting questions into microphones, fans clutching signs, some for Amy, some for Matt, some simply demanding the truth. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. Every creak of a chair, every cough, every shuffle of paper seemed amplified. The jury had spent the night deliberating. Now, all eyes were on them. The bailiff's voice rang out. "All rise for the jury." Everyone stood. Amy gripped Chris's hand so tightly her knuckles turned white. Matt sat stiff, his jaw clenched, eyes fixed straight ahead. Karen fidgeted, wringing her hands, her once confident aura long gone. The jury foreperson handed a folded paper to the judge. The judge opened it, scanned the words, and cleared his throat. In the matter of Roloff versus Merrick, the jury finds in favor of the defendant, Chris Merrick. Gasps filled the courtroom. Cameras flashed like lightning. Amy broke into tears, clutching Chris' arm as relief washed over her. The judge continued. The jury further finds credible evidence of document manipulation not attributable to the defendant. As such, this court recommends further investigation into the role of Ms. Karen Chandler. The room erupted in chaos. Karen's face drained of color. She looked at Matt, desperate for support. "Matt, say something. You know I was only trying to help you." But Matt didn't answer. He couldn't. His shoulders slumped, his eyes hollow. Amy stood, tears streaming, but her voice steady. "I told you, Matt. I told you from the start. Karen has been manipulating this family, twisting everything to keep us divided. And now, everyone sees it. Everyone knows the truth." Chris pulled her close, whispering, "It's over, Amy. We're free." Matt leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. His life's work, the farm, was still his. But the cost was unbearable. He had taken his ex-wife and her husband to court, only to discover he'd been a pawn in someone else's scheme. His legacy wasn't strengthened. It was tainted. And the woman he trusted most had betrayed him in the most public, humiliating way. Reporters swarmed as soon as the court adjourned. "Karen, did you forge the documents? Were you trying to frame Chris? Did you manipulate Matt?" Karen pushed past them, tears streaming, shouting, "No comment." But the damage was done. Her reputation was shattered. As they left the courthouse, Amy and Chris walked arm in arm, their bond tested but stronger than ever. Matt walked alone, his steps heavy, the image of a man broken not by his enemies, but by the betrayal of the one he trusted most. Karen trailed behind, swallowed by cameras and microphones. Her once bright future with Matt collapsing into scandal. The verdict hadn't just ended a lawsuit. It had ended the fragile ties holding the Roloff family together. The trial was over, but the echoes of its chaos lingered far beyond the courthouse walls. The Roloff family name, once tied to warm family dinners and the charm of Roloff Farms, was now tangled in betrayal, scandal, and heartbreak. News outlets exploded with headlines. Little people, big lies. Karen accused of forgery in Roloff court battle. Amy and Chris vindicated. Matt left broken. Roloff Farms' legacy tarnished by betrayal. Daytime talk shows dissected every detail. Paparazzi camped outside the farm and Amy's house. Fans split into factions online, some siding with Amy, some still clinging to Matt, and others simply stunned at Karen's downfall. For the first time, the Roloff story wasn't about overcoming challenges or building dreams. It was about deception, broken trust, and the destruction of family ties. At home, Amy sat on the couch with Chris, exhaustion etched on her face. "I thought winning would feel like freedom," she admitted softly. "But all I feel is empty. We didn't just prove our innocence. We lost whatever family ties we still had." Chris kissed her forehead. "We still have each other. That's enough." Amy smiled faintly, though her eyes were heavy. She knew Chris was right. But a part of her mourned the years she had spent trying to keep peace with Matt. Now, that chapter was forever closed. Back at the farmhouse, Matt sat alone at the long wooden table where generations of Roloffs had shared meals. The papers from the trial still lay scattered, but he couldn't bring himself to touch them. His voice cracked as he whispered to the empty room, "I fought to protect the farm, and I lost everything else." The farm was still his, but its meaning had changed. Once a symbol of family, it now stood as a monument to conflict. Every fence post, every barn wall seemed to carry the weight of betrayal. For Karen, life became unbearable overnight. Her name trended on social media for all the wrong reasons. Fans who once saw her as Matt's supportive partner now called her the manipulator, the forger, and the woman who broke the Roloffs. She tried to call Matt, but he wouldn't answer. She tried to issue a statement, but no one believed her. She had lost not just her reputation, but the man she had fought so hard to keep. In her quiet moments, she replayed her decisions, every whisper, every scheme, every forged line, and wondered if it had been worth it. The answer was clear. It hadn't. Zach and Tori, watching the chaos from afar, were devastated. Zach shook his head during a phone call with a friend. This farm, it used to bring us together. Now it's torn us apart. I don't even know if I want my kids around it anymore. For the younger Roloffs, the farm was no longer a legacy to inherit. It was a wound. The trial had ended with a verdict, but in reality, there were no winners. Amy no longer trusted Matt. Matt no longer trusted Karen. Karen had lost everything. Chris, though vindicated, was left scarred by the ordeal. The 4 lives that had once been intertwined were now fractured beyond repair. And Roloff Farms, the heart of it all, stood silently, its fields still green, its barns still sturdy, but its spirit broken. A week after the verdict, the storm of cameras and reporters had begun to die down. The courthouse was quiet, the headlines fading. But for the Roloffs, the damage was permanent. Matt, however, couldn't let it rest. The questions gnawed at him night after night. He needed to hear it from her, the woman he had trusted, defended, even loved. He called Karen one evening. His voice was cold. "Meet me at the farmhouse, tonight." When Karen arrived, the air inside the old kitchen was thick with silence. Matt sat at the table, arms crossed, the weight of betrayal heavy in his eyes. "Sit," he said simply. Karen obeyed, her hands trembling slightly. Matt's voice was low, but sharp as a blade. "I want the truth, Karen. No lawyers, no excuses. Just you and me. Did you forge those papers? Did you set Chris up to make me hate him?" Karen swallowed hard, her eyes darting to the floor. I never forged them myself." Matt slammed his hand on the table. "Don't play games with me. Did you make sure his name was there? Did you push this whole thing?" Tears welled in Karen's eyes. "Yes," she whispered finally. "Yes, I did." Matt's body stiffened, his worst fear confirmed. Karen's voice broke as she tried to explain. "Matt, I was scared. Amy had moved on with Chris. He was everywhere. Family gatherings, conversations, even the farm. I thought, if you saw him as a threat, you finally cut ties with her. You'd finally choose me completely." She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted us. I just wanted to protect what we had." Matt's eyes burned with a mix of anger and sorrow. "Protect us? Karen, you destroyed us. You destroyed everything. You made me drag Amy into court. Made me fight Chris over a lie. You made me look like a fool." His voice cracked. "You didn't just take the farm from me. You took my family, my dignity, my trust." Karen sobbed. "Matt, please." But Matt stood, shaking his head. "It's over, Karen. We're finished." Karen tried to protest, but her words died in her throat. She saw in Matt's eyes that there was no coming back. He opened the door, his voice flat. "Leave." Karen hesitated, tears streaming down her face. Then, silently, she walked out into the night. The sound of the door closing echoed through the empty farmhouse like a final gavel strike. Matt returned to the table, staring at the papers one last time. His voice was barely a whisper. All this time, all this pain, for nothing. Outside, Roloff Farms lay quiet under the moonlight. The fields were the same, the barns unchanged, but the family that had once given the land its meaning was gone. Amy's words from the courtroom echoed in his mind. "From now on, I will trust no one." And for the first time in his life, Matt Roloff truly understood what that meant. The Roloff family was once a symbol of togetherness, resilience, and love. Roloff Farms wasn't just land. It was a legacy, a dream built with sweat and sacrifice. But as we've seen, even the strongest legacies can fall, not from storms outside, but from betrayal within. Matt Roloff went to court believing he was protecting his farm. Amy Roloff fought to protect her marriage. Chris Merrick simply wanted to clear his name. And Karen Chandler. She played a dangerous game that left every relationship in ruins. In the end, no one truly won. The farm remains, but its spirit is broken. The family is scattered. Trust, once shattered, is almost impossible to rebuild. The Roloff story isn't just about land or love. It's about how betrayal can poison even the deepest roots, and how sometimes the greatest battles are fought not against enemies, but against those closest to us. So what do you think? Was Karen's manipulation inevitable? Or could the Roloffs have avoided this tragedy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. More update. LPBW. Amy Roloff teaches Chris Merrick's surprising new skill. And Matt Roloff gets support from Chris Merrick after heartbreak. And Matt Roloff reunites with Amy after Karen dumped him. And Little People, Big World. Is Amy Roloff's dad dead at 96? I will explain everything. Many viewers like seeing Amy Roloff and Chris Merrick on Little People, Big World, despite their gripes about the show's seemingly endless seasons. A fresh and unexpected skill was taught to Chris by Amy not long ago. Where did these two disappear to then? The fans of Little People, Big World have long enjoyed seeing Amy Roloff and Matt Roloff get under each other's skin in scenes. But they have recently taken great delight in seeing the interplay between Amy and Chris Merrick. Observing Amy's success in her marriage to Chris is a new angle here. Chris Merrick and Matt Roloff's surprising romance is even enjoyed by Little People, Big World fans. No one usually becomes friends with their present wife's ex-husband. But Chris and Matt are really pals, strange though it may appear to many. The several roles that Amy Roloff and Chris Merrick play together is something that viewers of Little People, Big World enjoy. His motorbike rides, live music at trendy pubs, and exotic vacations are just a few of the exciting things that Amy and Chris do. Fans can't get enough of their antics. Teaching Chris Merrick a new trick was recently Amy's update for her numerous Little People Big World followers. They continue to connect with Chris' willingness to learn new things, even after all these years of dating. Longtime viewers of Little People, Big World know that Amy Roloff adores spending time in the kitchen. The ability to prepare delicious food, whether it's her world-renowned fudge or a hearty meal recipe, is her way of showing her loved ones how much they mean to her. Chris Merrick, her partner, learned how to prepare meatloaf not long ago. Just wanted to share with all of my Little People Big World fans that I really love spending time with my boyfriend. Meatloaf recipe in my cookbook, see profile for link, and mashed potatoes were among the dishes I demonstrated to him. Am I right? But now that he's a man, he has no need to know how, since he's been single for a long time. So we cooked together in the kitchen. Amy Roloff continued to tell her several fans. I revel in the opportunity to whip up delicious treats for him in the kitchen. Many viewers of Little People, Big World enjoy how Chris is open to learning new skills from Amy, and how often the two of them spend time together in the kitchen. Their satisfaction with the outcome is evident in the photo Amy included with her most recent meatloaf update. Matt Roloff gets support from Chris Merrick after heartbreak. In July, famed Little People, Big World actor Matt Roloff broke some devastating news to his fans. Someone has recently shown their support for the star of the TLC series. But it's Chris Merrick, and he has a fascinating link to Matt. Little People, Big World is largely responsible for Matt and his family's fame. This show depicts Matt's life with dwarfism, as well as that of his ex-wife Amy and Zach, one of their 4 children. Matt and Amy's 2017 divorce was the result of their 1987 marriage. In the years that followed, Matt dated Karen Chandler, the daughter of the family farm manager. The year 2024 saw the engagement announcement from Matt and Karen. But in July of last year, news spread that they had broken off their engagement. Not long ago, Matt announced a major happening on the farm through Instagram. He posted video and images from Guy's night at Roloff Farm in a carousel. One fan, Chris Merrick, stood out though because he was clearly invited to the event. Since 2021, Chris has been wed to Amy, who was Matt's ex-girlfriend. Chris and the family have quite a history together. Actually, the Roloff farm was the site of his marriage to Amy. Matt and Amy temporarily reconnected in San Diego, as previously reported, to cheer on their granddaughter Lila during a sporting event. Reportedly, Chris was among those who showed up to the ceremony to show their support for Lila. Chris was the one standing on the left side of the photo in the group. In addition to the video of everyone pitching in to gather seats, the post featured images of everyone preparing the meal, which included a fruit platter. After seeing Chris greeted at the most recent event at the Roloff farm, many fans took to the comments to voice their feelings. Chris was widely thought to have been there for Matt during his recent breakup. Some of Matt's admirers even wanted to personally express their gratitude to him. Here are a few remarks. How lovely that Amy's husband feels welcome and takes part. How great to see Chris enjoying himself with the guys. I really like that Chris is there. Hey Matt, I'm rooting for you. You will overcome these obstacles since your creative juices are flowing despite the setbacks you've experienced. I hope that all of your family relationships will mend completely. Chris and Matt's friendship is wonderful. To the wonderful Roloff family, Chris was and is an inspiration. The Roloff farm is a beautiful venue for a night out with the fellas. The presence of Chris among you all is appreciated. Regarding Matt's most recent share, what are your thoughts? Is Chris' presence there for Matt something you find acceptable as well? Matt Roloff reunites with Amy after Karen dumped him. While coping with the fallout of his breakup with Karen Chandler, Little People, big world star Matt Roloff has been in the midst of a lot of drama as of late. Recent developments indicate that Matt has reconciled with his ex-girlfriend Amy Roloff. Is that all the information we have regarding this reunion? While Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler had known each other for a long time and had been an item, he recently told his Little People, big world fans that the couple was no longer together. The fact that Karen has a hater among certain TLC viewers is old news. Be that as it may, she did win over many admirers over the years. What makes this situation even more intriguing is that when Matt spoke publicly about the split, he made it seem like it was amicable. Reports from inside Little People Big World, however, indicate that Karen ultimately decided to end the show because she had had enough. There was supposed to be a Hawaiian wedding for this too, as Little People Big World viewers know. Some fans even wondered if there would be a TLC wedding special. But now we know it isn't the case anymore thanks to these new events. Matt Roloff recently reconciled with his ex-girlfriend Amy Roloff amidst all the drama surrounding his breakup with Karen Chandler. Matt was there in San Diego to cheer on his grandkids during a major event. Additionally, Chris Merrick was present, as was Amy. As a result, the get-together was enjoyable and served a worthy purpose. Regardless of opinions on Amy and Matt Roloff, many Little People Big World fans appreciate how they consistently support their grandchildren. Along with posting a photo of Amy, Chris, and Lila, Matt captioned it, saying, "Amy, Chris, and I celebrating Lila's great athletic success." The San Diego Dwarf athletic events from July of last year. Undoubtedly, this update from Matt has been adored by Little People Big World enthusiasts. Fans can finally see some of his family members together after all the divorce drama he's been through. And there are plenty of opinions on the matter on the comment section. "Nice to see you all there," was one of the comments. "The experience will stay with Lila forever. Thanks for being there for each other," another person added. "So pleasant. I'm relieved the money, vacation lady is gone," another individual commented. Little People, Big World, Is Amy Roloff's dad dead at 96? There was a recent loss in the family, and little people, big world viewers have heard the news. Narratives circulating on the internet state that Gordon Knight, Amy Roloff's father, passed away not long ago. He was 96 years old. All things considered, the plot could be trickier than it seems. Amy and her family first became famous to viewers of the TLC show Little People, Big World. Her parents, Gordon and Patricia, were married until Patricia's death in 2019. In real life, Amy has 4 children from her marriage to Matthew Roloff, as shown on the TLC show. Amy tied the knot with Chris Merrick at Roloff Farms in 2021 after their 2016 divorce. Fans of Amy's relationship with her father from the TLC show know this. She visits him every year, and that's how she gets her reputation. On the other hand, rumors have been circulating claiming Gordon died at the age of 96. An online notice about Gordon stated, R.I.P. Amy Roloff's father died away on June 13th, and we are very sorry to hear about it. My deepest condolences. Yet, the narrative had a few flaws. More specifically, a comparable post from last month surfaced on social media, asserting that Gordon had died in June, often on June 13. The competing narratives even surfaced in the same online communities. Further, the Roloff family had not confirmed any reports of a death in the family. It is now widely thought that the rumor was a fake, yet it nevertheless managed to gather traction online. On social media, one updated version of the article garnered almost 3,000 likes. Thanks to the recent death hoax, many fans of Amy and the Roloff family expressed their sympathies, knowing how close Amy is to her father. Sadness was expressed by several commenters. Take my deepest sympathies with you at this time. Let him rest in peace. Furthermore, may your father rest in peace. And my heart goes out to you, Amy. Gordon's health problems have likewise garnered media attention at one point. Concerns about Amy's father's ability to attend her wedding to Chris were voiced at the time, as reported by People. Then she posted to Instagram stories, writing, "My dad, aged 92 years old. These past 2 weeks have been spent in the hospital with him. Whether he will be able to attend our wedding is uncertain," the share continued. "His recent improvement and strength are causes for my joy. That being said, I keep surrendering it to God because he knows." In spite of this, he was able to make it to the wedding, as evidenced by images uploaded online. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.